There are some wild new commanders coming out of the Final Fantasy set, which may be the most legend-dense set ever released. And if we ignore the ludicrous pre-order prices of some of them, then there are quite a few that are intriguing for budget brews, like Hope Estheim, who I'm putting at the lead of a $45 build-your-own precon brew called Immortal Insanity, all about gaining life while eating away at your opponent's libraries. Our commander is a 2-mana white and blue human wizard. This 2/2 has lifelink and reads, at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Which is very, very interesting. We want to be gaining life on our turns, which gives us free value in milling opponents. And gaining life is easy in Commander, with the issue usually being how do you win while gaining life? Aetherflux Reservoir aside, we have some instant win conditions in Test of Endurance and Felidar Sovereign, but that's usually it. Not anymore, as we can now put a win con in the command zone. And Hope can fit at the lead of some different variations of decks. Mainly, you want to determine if you want to be a mill deck that gains life, or a Lifegain deck that mills. I've chosen the latter path for this brew. Let's be a Lifegain deck first and foremost, using that life to discount our spells or control the board, while playing a longer, more controlling game that looks to mill our opponents out if we don't outright win from having, like, a million life. But what is the cost of immortality? Before I get into the brew, make sure to slam that like button, subscribe for more brews, and comment on which Final Fantasy commanders you want to see me build. Hope is a really low-to-the-ground commander, meaning we can either cast him very early if we anticipate he'll stick around for a bit, or, even better, we can cast him after we've gained a bunch of life on our turn in order to get that end step trigger. We can also gain a bunch of life in response to the end step trigger too, waiting for it to go in the stack, casting some instant speed life gain like Congregate or War Report to make sure that removing Hope in response doesn't net us 0 mil. It's this tactic that makes cards like Zurin Orb a massive potential finisher for us. With the trigger on the stack, we can sacrifice all of our lands, gain that boatload of life, and ideally mill our opponents for any remaining cards they have in their libraries. If we're trying to gain life on our turns, the most potent effect for this is Extort. There's a lot of confusion around Extort. Is it legal to run in a blue-white deck if it contains black-white pips? The answer is yes, you can run it, since the Orzhov hybrid pip is in the reminder text, not the text box itself. Here, take a look at these printings of Blind Obedience. Do you see any black pips on them? But what Extort does in this context is lets us pay an extra mana on spellcast to gain 3 life and drain each opponent by 1. Easy. But Extort triggers individually. The more sources of Extort you have, the more you can pay for the trigger, and the more life you can gain. For instance, if you have a Syndic of Ties and a Basilica Guards out, you can cast a Sanctity to blow up an opponent's enchantment and pay an extra 2 white mana. Now, you're draining each opponent for 2, gaining 3 life from your spell, and an extra 6 life from Extort. Moving immediately to your end step and doing nothing else, you've just put yourself up 9 life, and your opponent's down 9 cards and 2 life each. That's efficient. That is the name of this game, efficiently gain life and slowly leech resources from your opponents. We can up that efficiency with effects that increase our life gain like Angel of Vitality, Cleric Class, and Leyline of Hope too, making each instance of life gain that much more potent. Rock's Faithmender can double all that life gain too, resulting in double the mill at the end of each turn. Unfortunately, effects like Boon Reflection and the Wind Crystal are too expensive for the brew at this budget, but do make excellent upgrades. Same goes for anything that multiplies mill like Bruvac, Grand Eloquent, or the new Water Crystal. Again, both too expensive for this budget level, but adding important multipliers on the other multipliers you can get. And as I always say, when you double a doubler, you win the game. Gaining life is the name of the game here, and we need to do it well. Creatures like Drogskull Reaver, Sphinx of the Revelation, and Wall of Reverence all do work for us, gaining life on our turns, passively or actively. While spells like Heliod's Intervention, Sanguine Sacrament, or White Sun's Twilight all let us sink X mana into them to gain, in some cases, twice X life. Milling each opponent for twice X is usually pretty silly, especially if we can work to double up on this effect with Will Scion of Peace. If we gain even 4 or 5 life, activate Will, and discount these X spells by that much, it means that we've made mana effectively and milled our opponents doubly so. And I really like Delusions of Mediocrity here. I only wish Illusions of Grandeur were in the budget, since we don't really care about losing the life we gain from these enchantments, just that we gained it to begin with. It means that blinking or recurring a 4 mana 10 life gain each turn puts a real clock on your opponent's libraries. Protecting our commander is important since he doesn't do that himself, and while Gold Forged Thopteryx helps here, we can't just rely on Ward doing the job. Fortunately, we're in control colors. Counterspells like Spell Pierce, Absorb, and Disdainful Stroke can all help fend off board wipes or targeted removal. We do need our commander to, at least, make it to the end step. And Fumigate makes like the perfect board wipe in the deck too, ideally with us casting or recasting our commander after wiping the board for a nice pop of mill on top of that life gain. Fortunately, life gain is also fantastic for card draw, with options like Cosmos Elixir, Well of Lost Dreams, and Dawn of Hope all synergizing with us gaining boatloads of life. We've got to pay for some of these options, but I don't know about you, I'm fine paying 5 mana to draw 5 cards in some cases. The Gaffer also makes for a great draw engine too. 1 Extort trigger and you'll be drawing an extra card each turn. Gain some life on an opponent's turn and it's free value. What if we didn't have to pay mana to draw cards though? What if we were a Lich? Marina of Rendrell's Grimoire lets us turn life gain into card draw, all at the small price of making sure we don't lose life and have to then discard cards. It's still the single best card draw engine for life gain in these colors and allows us to not lose for having 0 or less life. Sometimes that's a good thing. Which, by the way, is a nifty little unbreakable loop with Shabraz the Sky Shark. He says whenever we draw a card, we gain a life and put a counter on something, and the Grimoire says whenever we gain a life, we draw a card. Uh-oh, that's a recipe to draw our entire libraries. If we don't want to lose life, we can pillow fort up a bit with Ghostly Prison and Propaganda and really let those life totals soar. Our opponents will have to go tall instead of wide to chunk into our life total, and even in most cases, it's not going to be anything more than a scratch to us. And while yes, I said that this was a life gain deck that mills, it doesn't mean that there are no straight mill elements to it. It's good to have a backup. Ruin Crab, Manic Scribe, Dreambore Muse, having these sources of mill are passive. We don't need to do anything for them to just work. So they don't detract from our life gain strategy, they just don't add to it. They get us where we're going, just on a more circuitous route. Mirelurk Queen and Teresian Mindbreaker also do the job of milling our opponents, just in case we have 1 or 2 stubborn opponents that aren't being nice enough to lose the game. Normally, here's where I talk about the pivot, where I would put Will, Scion of Peace, or Heliod the Radiant Dawn at the lead of the deck for a different spin to it. But instead, I want to talk about a no-budget version of this deck, because there's just so much we can do if we aren't sticking to a $45 budget. Doublers like Boon Reflection, the Water Crystal, and Brewvac are just the beginning, being too expensive for this brew at this level. The Wind Crystal, newly revealed as well, is another sweet life gain doubler that also, oh yeah, can give all your creatures flying and lifelink. But actual mill cards like Traumatize, Fractured Sanity, and Maddening Cacophony are just outside of our reach as well, and they do an amazing job of getting the mill train rolling. I can see using a Profane Memento in combination with raw mill spells and our commander to gain a bunch of life and mill significantly more cards in a single turn too. The Mind Skinner could turn this into a much more aggro deck, as I've shown in my gameplay with a deck built around him. But then that would shut off another aspect perfectly viable for this build in Lifelink, an equipment-based deck that focuses on Basilisk Collar, Shadow Spear, Loxodon Warhammer, and other lifelink granting artifacts could make this a deck that swings for the fences, gains life, and then also mills cards, effectively getting opponents closer to losing across 2 vectors simultaneously. I said that this was efficient and I meant it. Which, of course, would make True Conviction or Akroma's Will amazing ways to finish a game twice at the same time. Turning your whole army into lifelinking double strikers means even if your creatures get blocked, you're still going to gain enough life to mill out your entire table at once. Upgrading your counter magic to include mana drain or game changers like Fierce Guardianship would make sense if you're going for a no-budget version. and naturally fitting Serra Ascendant into the deck would be a huge boon. There's no single card that enables more early life gain, or groans from opponents, like a turn 1 Serra Ascendant. And I haven't even touched Soul Sisters yet. Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, and Guide of Souls. They all make for great potential adds to gain life on your turn as creatures enter the battlefield under your control. They combine with effects that increase the life you gain by 1 on each trigger into multiplicative effects that, entirely accidentally I'm sure, mill your opponents for unexpectedly large amounts. And while your card draw could remain synergistic, upgrading it to an Esper Sentinel and Trouble in Pairs makes it more consistent to ensure you're never low on resources. Overall, I am certain, beyond a shadow of doubt, that this deck and Hope Estheim in general can be incredibly powerful under a budget restriction or budget list. Are you excited to brew around this Azorius legend? Show me your lists in the comments and let me know what cards you think are must-haves. You can view my full deck list right now in the description at MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks to specific brackets thanks to their built-in automated bracket detection tools. Never misjudge your decks again, and be sure to follow my profile to never miss any of my brews. If you want to pick up any of the cards for this list, be sure to go to Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC now for 5% off your orders from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. And if you want to sell off your cards, whether they be unused or just duplicates, go to Card Conduit. If you're selling out of anything from Pokemon to Star Wars to Magic, get premium rates for your cards. Ship them unsorted today and get a check in the mail. If you were inspired to brew, you have to hit that subscribe button. Be a gem and check out some of the other videos on the channel right now too. And as always, good luck and have fun!